This week, we saw the election of a new Roman Catholic Pope, Francis I. The new Pope is 76 years old. He is the former Jorge Bergoglio, the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's the first pontiff from Latin America, where today there are over 100 million descendants of African slaves. Africa itself is a fast-growing center of Catholicism. Pope Francis I is known for his appeal to and concern for the common man. But by all accounts, his conservative views are very much in line with his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI. It remains to be seen what changes he'll bring to the Catholic Church and how that will affect black Catholics and other Christians here in America and around the world. Joining us from Dallas, Texas, is one of America's most prominent religious leaders, Bishop T.D. Jakes of the Potter's House in Dallas. Bishop, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you, Roland. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, I want to deal with the Pope first because it's very interesting when folks talk about, obviously, the pageantry surrounding the selection of a Pope, being, of course, the following in the footsteps of Peter, if you will. And so what do you believe the relationship exists or is or should be between the Roman Catholic Church and other denominations of the Christian faith? Is there actually commonality there where folks can actually do things together as opposed to saying, well, you're Catholic, I'm Baptist, you're Methodist, you're CME, AME, Church of Christ, all the different denominations?
You know, there are many opportunities for ecumenicalism in our society today. There are many outreaches that we have common ground about. I think one of the great mistakes in how we rationalize things in this country currently is that we have a tendency to perpetuate the ideology that we should focus on our differences rather than to focus on our commonalities. When I think of the Roman Catholic Church and their belief in Jesus, his death, burial, and resurrection, the fact that they serve the poor, the fact that they're interested in education. There are many things that we can gather around and agree upon. And in the areas that we do have agreement, I think there is great continuity between the Protestants and Catholics as it relates to the betterment of the human species in general.
I get a kick out of listening to various commentators and other networks talk about, well, the Pope's, his views as it relates to this social issue and that social issue. I mean, it is as if folks have never actually read a Bible to understand that religious leaders do take moral stands on issues and are consistent. And so as a pastor, I mean, you get these questions all the time as well, whether it's abortion, homosexuality, whether it's raising of children, whether it's contraception. And so how do you as a pastor, and the Pope has to deal with this as well, get folks to understand that, look, you have a biblical view, and I think I heard you once say, where the Bible is silent, so will I. Where the Bible speaks, I follow the word.
Absolutely. I think that our country is very, very wise, the founding fathers, when we set up separation between church and state, because the state should be guided by the Constitution. It becomes an overarching umbrella through which all Americans and all people who pay taxes should be represented, and their ideas should be reflected in the process. It is a growing ideology that evolves through the Bill of Rights and other documents whereby we can adjust it to the trends of the times. But when it comes to the faith movement, our Constitution is the Word of God. It is not a growing ideology. It is a very rigid ideology. And so as we follow the Word of God, many, many times it's going to take us down a different path of the world that we live in. And Jesus said that would be so. But we can have our views without being acrimonious, without being hateful, without being homophobic, without being fearful. And I think that all groups have to examine themselves to see if we really practice what we preach in terms of being tolerant of each other.
You speak of tolerance, and it's very interesting in this country. We talk about do the crime, do the time. Yet we are not tolerant when it comes to people who have made mistakes, folks who have come out of prison. One of the reasons why there's such a high rate of folks going back is because when they get out of jail, they have few opportunities when it comes to housing, when it comes to jobs, the ability to earn a living. And you and your church have really been involved in trying to say, look, you can have a second chance, and we're going to help you do so. How has that gone? What has been the reaction from folks who are in that position, who to say, look, man, I just need a chance at life?
Well, you know, we have a long history, first of all, of working with people who've been incarcerated. Many people will remember the early years of our Woman to Our Loose and Manpower. We put satellite systems into prisons and began to provide spiritual enrichment to the inmates. We also adopt prisons and send in ministers to comfort and develop some support system for people who are incarcerated for years and years and years. Later, we decided that our best interest and efforts at this point might be placed on those coming out of the penal institutions, particularly in the state of Texas, when we are one of two, California being the other, that has the highest rate of incarceration in the entire United States. When I consider as an American that we have more people incarcerated in the U.S. than all the countries around the world combined, somebody needs to go into this harvest field and harvest these people. Many, many people do not go. There's no offerings to be made. There's no glory. There's no glamour. But if you're looking for great work and people who really need you, this is a harvest field. We developed the Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative so that we could help reduce the rate of recidivism and create an atmosphere whereby inmates who come out forlorn, haven't seen a computer or a laptop or an iPad, can acclimate back into society, can find a place that will rent to them. There are not many. Can find somebody who will employ them. There are not many. And even reintroduce them and reintegrate them back to their own families, because the person who comes out is not always the person who went in. Over 7,000, I think nearly 8,000 people have gone through our program successfully, been trained, been helped, and evolved as persons. We do graduation services for them. We celebrate them as they go through the program. The program is rigorous. It takes about a year to complete. It covers everything from how to fill out a resume to how to get employment to how to get an apartment. We work with them through the process of re-identifying who you are now in light of what you've been through. There's never been a more effective program. Many state government programs are looking at our program, trying to model it, because we have put so much interest, time, and money into developing people who are coming out and lowering the rate of recidivism.
This is a great program. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to feature. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, be sure to join us next week when you'll meet graduates of this program and hear how they're successfully returning to society. Up next, our roundtable. And later, the wealth gap.